All right. So, for organization, I thought based off of the key questions, I thought that was pretty good. They covered their topics well. The presentation seemed to kind of flow from slide to slide, from topic to topic, or from person to person. And then everybody presented. Um, Maybe one thing that I knock them a little bit on, as far as like presented in a logical sequence. I might have, and this is just coming from me, tried to split it up, particularly with the difference. Like Brianna's the elementary ed, and then Courtney and Adam. I might have had Brianna speak more maybe on the elementary stuff, and then Courtney and Adam focus more on the high school stuff. But I wasn't in
Right.
there planning, so I'm not sure how they
Yeah,
decided.
exactly. And I kind of went the same route. I said, the information they presented in the PowerPoint covered the topic in depth. It was descriptive. It progressed through the positives and negatives of how that particular topic worked. And I think it was problem centered.
Yes,
Uh, and then, all members assisted in presentation, and they all answered questions and even provided the examples of
yes,
the topic as it works in their own schools,
yep.
which I thought kind of helped with even conducting the presentation because that
And
was part of it.
And I thought, and this probably goes along more with the content or the actual presentation part, but I thought it was good too that they did include some of the negatives, because not every system is perfect. Everything's going to have its flaws, and when you can identify those flaws, then you can kind of pre-plan or preconceive what some of those issues may be, and kind of try to circumvent those.
Well, and especially if you know what problems may arise in the process.
Yeah,
So that was good that they did talk about those.
yeah. Um. So for the content, um, no, for the content, it says introductions, attention getting, and stuff like that. They just kind of got started. So, but I don't really know what she was looking for, because if you look under the presentation, it says, or somewhere it says something about like they're being professional too. So I don't think you're jumping in and going, "Hey, look at me," you know what I mean? So maybe just a little more, hey,
But
like,
I
hey, okay, here we go, type thing.
well, and I think that you needed to add that. Hey, here we go.
Yeah,
I think that was missing because it was difficult to grab a hold of that attention.
yeah,
And that's one thing that I said was, the introduction established the framework for the presentation based on the key points, but it could have been more inviting as a way to
right,
grab a
yeah,
hold. You got to
exactly.
have that activator.
Yeah, that to get them engaged, that opening activity. Yep, I agree with that. I thought the language was appropriate, considering we're all in master's levels classes. We all pretty much knew what they were talking about and where they were going with it.
Right.
Thought the information was accurate, and again, when each person was presented, they also talked about not only the different levels you could see it done at, but also the different disciplines. Like the one slide that had, here's something you could do with art, or here's something you could do with math, or here's something you could do with ELA, that kind of stuff.
I
Um,
agree. I think that was appropriate.
yeah, and so information was accurate. The material they had in there was relevant to what they were trying to present. And I think time wise they did fine as far as the amount of the material goes, and the points they made reflected the relative importance, because we're all going into administration. So when we got a teacher that may be struggling or may not be doing what we need them to do for the school, we've got to be able to have ideas and thoughts on ways and things that can happen or be done differently. And we got to be able to approach it in a way where that teacher's not feeling threatened either. So I thought they did a good job of making that happen.
I agree. I felt that the terms were well defined for us as a target audience. I thought the presentation was accurate and it had relevant information, things that we can use. And I also feel that the material was an appropriate amount of time and it reflected the topic's comment. So, and they were both helpful and relative pieces of information being provided. So, um, the only thing I really knocked them in on the content was that grab a hold.
Yeah,
It could have been more of an inviting way of saying, "Hey, check
yeah,
this out."
exactly. I agree with that. And so now we're going down to the presentation. Um, I thought they did good with the eye contact and stuff like that. The only thing was, is I just kept noticing Adam kept, I don't know if it was like a nervous habit or his chair was stuck on something, but he kept swaying back and forth from side to side. I was like, what is going on? But I mean, that's
I
really, go
yeah, I
ahead.
would say that's probably some nervousness.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're doing a Zoom to really
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of get involved with, it says gestures and moving
Yeah.
around. Well, I'm not going to carry my laptop walking around
Right.
while we're doing a presentation.
And like I'm particularly like when I'm in front of the classroom, I'm demonstrative. I'm showing things. I'm moving around. I'm doing stuff like that. But on this little 4 inch by 4 inch screen I'm on, it's probably hard to see all that.
Yeah,
So
and that's something that I feel we need to. I don't know. It's hard to knock them on that
yeah, no, I agree.
because of the setup of how we're doing it.
Oh yeah. No, I just it was just funny to me. I can't remember he was when he would talk, he would start going back and forth. Um,
Yeah,
but that I didn't and though did there were a couple times though it did a little bit get a little harder to hear just a little bit of mumbling and whatnot. Um, but that's just who I mean that's just kind of Adam. He's just kind of I guess close talker, however you would call it.
yeah, I agree. There are times where his voice tends to trail off
Yeah,
instead of staying at an appropriate,
yeah.
clear, audible level. Um, but I do think that for the most part they were easily understood.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that the delivery for the most part was controlled. It was
Agreed.
mostly smooth.
Yep.
Um, for the most part, they seemed pretty confident in their presentation. They may could have been a little bit more confident, but they were also guinea pigs and they were the ones going first,
Right.
and that's always a difficult thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 They language skills were good. Pronunciation was good, and I thought their charts and graphs were good. It kind of showed how everything is cyclical or cyclical. It comes back around, and then it showed with the picture of the brain how and where those things should affect the and what the kids are thinking or how you use that in their in the learning process with that.
Yeah,
And then go ahead.
language skills and pronunciation weren't perfect, but they were acceptable. Like I know Adam very well, and I know, and when he hears this, he knows it, and he knows I know it, but sometimes his grammar is not the
Oh yeah.
greatest,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
whose is? I mean,
Right.
there are plenty of things that I say wrong as well, but you know, it was perfectly acceptable. I won't say it was perfect, but it was perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Um, and the same thing, Brianna's from South Carolina. They speak differently down there
Yeah.
as a
And
whole.
terminology. Yeah. Yep.
Um, and Courtney's from north, almost in Virginia, so she's
Yeah.
there. There's a different dialect there, and that's just something we all have to
Yeah.
appreciate and understand.
And just it just takes getting used to. Absolutely. Tom was good. I know Dr. Sanders said it probably went a little long, but they had people asking questions, and they did a great job in thoroughly answering those questions as well. Again, not only specifically overarching and overall, but within their own schools as well.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I may would have done in the presentation where they did their cyclical slide,
Yeah,
maybe because it's problem centered, I may have put problem as
like
the
yeah,
center of that
like
circle.
yeah, I agree with that. Or just even an example problem,
Yeah.
something
So
like that. Yeah, so
just something to take up that space because that space was pretty blank. But
yeah,
I thought overall they did pretty well for being first and not
yeah,
really knowing what to expect and how this was going to go.
yeah. So I was kind of right there with you. I had them at like a 90, 95. I had them at a 90. You said 90. I had them at a 95. So I mean, we could
Yeah,
split the difference and do what 93. So
works for me.
all
Yeah,
right.
cool.